The Yankees just got handed their blueprint for fixing multiple roster problems in one strategic move, and the latest intel coming out of the winter meetings suggests Brian Cashman is seriously pursuing Brendan Donovan from the Cardinals in what could be the perfect under-the-radar acquisition that transforms this lineup. We're not talking about a flashy marquee signing that dominates headlines. We're talking about the exact type of high-contact, versatile player who fixes depth issues while providing legitimate everyday production across multiple positions. The buzz is real. Multiple sources are confirming New York's interest is substantial, and if Cashman can pull this off without surrendering premium prospects, you're looking at one of the smartest moves of the entire offseason. Let's establish why Brendan Donovan makes so much sense for what the Yankees actually need, because this isn't about chasing the biggest name available. It's about identifying the right fit for your roster construction. Donovan just wrapped up his best offensive season, posting a .287 batting average with consistent production across the board. Over the past 4 years, he's been remarkably steady, hitting .281, .284, .278, and .287 respectively. That's not a guy who has one fluke year and then disappears. That's someone who consistently puts the bat on the ball and gets on base at elite rates. In today's strikeout-heavy game, where teams are obsessed with launch angle and exit velocity, Donovan represents the old-school approach of simply making contact and letting the results follow. His on-base skills are exactly what killed the Yankees in October when they couldn't generate base runners consistently and left Aaron Judge and Giancarlo Stanton with nobody to drive in. How many times did we watch the top of the order fail to reach base, forcing the middle of the lineup to try doing everything themselves, which led to pressing and chasing pitches out of the zone? Donovan solves that immediately by giving you a leadoff option or two-hole hitter who gets on base at a high clip, doesn't strike out excessively, and sets the table for your big bats to do damage. That 13.4% whiff rate and 13% strikeout rate are absolutely elite in modern baseball, where league average strikeout rates hover around 23%. The versatility component cannot be overstated because the Yankees have been desperately seeking players who can move around the diamond and provide defensive coverage at multiple spots. Donovan has legitimate experience at third base, second base, shortstop, and left field. He won a Gold Glove in 2022, so this isn't just a guy who can stand in different positions. He's actually good defensively wherever you put him. That flexibility gives Aaron Boone lineup construction options that didn't exist last year, allowing him to rest players without losing defensive quality or to adjust matchups based on opposing pitching without creating holes in the field. The left field situation specifically is fascinating because the Yankees are still trying to get Cody Bellinger back from the Cubs, but if that falls through and they need another option who can play out there competently, Donovan checks that box while also providing infield depth. You could theoretically start him in left against right-handed pitching, move him to second or third when giving someone a rest day, and never worry about defensive drop-off. That's incredibly valuable over a 162-game season where injuries and fatigue management become critical factors in maintaining performance. His team control situation makes this even more appealing because he's not a free agent until after the 2027 season, meaning you're acquiring him for 2 full years of prime production. Cashman has made it clear he wants players with controllable years remaining rather than committing massive long-term deals to free agents who might decline rapidly. Donovan, at 28 years old, entering his prime offensive years with 2 seasons of control, represents exactly that philosophy. You're not betting on future development or hoping a prospect pans out. You're getting proven big league production at a reasonable cost, both financially and in terms of trade assets. What would it actually take to pry Donovan away from St. Louis? The Cardinals are clearly in some form of reset mode after missing the playoffs, and they've been open about listening to offers on players who don't fit their timeline. Donovan has value. He's not someone they're giving away, but he's also not untouchable if the return makes sense. A package centered around Carlos Lagrange, the Yankees' number 2 pitching prospect, makes logical sense because he doesn't have a clear path to the big league rotation in New York, but profiles as a potential mid-rotation starter who St. Louis could develop. Adding Kyle Carr, a left-handed pitching prospect ranked 13th in the system, plus Dylan Lewis, an outfielder currently at high A, gives the Cardinals 3 legitimate pieces for organizational depth. Is that too much for Donovan? On paper, it might seem like an overpay, surrendering your second-best prospect plus 2 other top 20 guys for a player who's good but not a superstar. But context matters here. Lagrange realistically isn't cracking the Yankees' rotation anytime soon with Max Fried, Garrett Cole, Carlos Rodon, and Clark Schmidt ahead of him. Carr is years away from contributing at the big league level. Lewis is still an A-ball and could easily flame out before reaching the majors. You're trading potential that may never materialize for guaranteed production from a proven commodity. That's exactly the calculation teams in championship windows should be making. The offensive profile fits perfectly in Yankee Stadium too, because Donovan's approach generates consistent hard contact with a 40% sweet spot rate, meaning when he connects, he's hitting the ball where it needs to go for optimal results. That short porch in right field will play to his advantage as a left-handed hitter, potentially adding 5 to 10 home runs annually just from the ballpark effect. Even if the power doesn't spike dramatically, his ability to hit line, drives into the gaps, and use the entire field makes him a nightmare for opposing pitchers trying to defend him. You can't shift against a guy who sprays the ball everywhere with legitimate bat-to-ball skills. The clubhouse impact gets mentioned, but shouldn't be dismissed as platitudes, because Donovan genuinely has a reputation as a grinder who shows up every day and competes regardless of circumstances. The Yankees need more of that mentality after what we saw in October, where some guys seem to shrink in big moments. Adding players with proven track records of performing under pressure and maintaining consistency through adversity changes organizational culture. It's not the flashy move that generates excitement on social media, but it's the type of foundational building block that championship rosters are constructed around. Where does he slot into the everyday lineup? That's where the versatility becomes such an asset, because Boone could deploy him in multiple configurations depending on matchups and who needs rest. Against right-handed pitching, you could run him out at third base, hitting second, setting the table for Judge and Stanton. Against lefties, maybe he moves to left field or sits for a day, while someone like Oswaldo Cabrera or another platoon option plays. The key is having options rather than being locked into rigid lineup construction that doesn't allow for adjustment. Last year's Yankees were painfully inflexible once injuries started piling up, and that lack of depth killed them down the stretch. The batting average component specifically addresses one of the Yankees' most glaring weaknesses, because this lineup featured way too many guys hitting in the low 260s or worse, creating black holes in the order that made it easy for opposing pitchers to navigate. When your 7 and 8 hitters are automatic outs, it doesn't matter how good Judge and Stanton are, because they'll see nothing to hit and get walked intentionally. Donovan changes that calculus by forcing pitchers to engage, because they can't just pitch around trouble. He's going to put the ball in play, and with his contact skills, he's going to reach base at rates that keep innings alive and pressure on the defense. The financial aspect is worth considering too, because Donovan is arbitration eligible and will be affordable compared to free agent alternatives who provide similar production. Instead of paying $20 million annually for a player of his caliber in free agency, you're getting him for maybe $6 to $8 million through arbitration, while only surrendering prospects rather than cash. That financial flexibility allows the Yankees to allocate resources elsewhere, potentially signing another bullpen arm or addressing catching depth or whatever other needs arise during the season. Smart roster construction isn't just about acquiring talent. It's about maximizing value at every position to create the most balanced, competitive team possible. Some people will argue the Yankees should be swinging for bigger names, that Donovan represents settling rather than being aggressive in pursuit of championship caliber talent. I'd counter that this move is aggressive because it demonstrates a clear understanding of roster construction and where the actual weaknesses lie. The Yankees don't need more power. They hit plenty of home runs. They need high contact players who get on base and don't strike out, creating lineup depth that makes them harder to pitch against. Donovan provides exactly that, while also filling defensive versatility needs. That's not settling. That's smart team building. The Cardinals' willingness to move him is the critical factor, because if St. Louis genuinely wants to get younger and rebuild around their prospect core, trading a 28-year-old who doesn't fit their contention timeline makes perfect sense. They can maximize his trade value right now before another year passes and he gets closer to free agency. For the Yankees, you're buying at exactly the right time, when his production is proven and consistent, but before he becomes prohibitively expensive in arbitration. The timing aligns perfectly for both organizations to find mutual benefit in a deal. The comparison to Jose Trevino or other recent Yankees acquisitions who brought versatility and steady production is apt, because those types of moves often get overlooked in favor of blockbuster signings but end up being crucial to team success. Trevino came over in a relatively minor trade and became an all-star catcher, providing elite defense and solid offensive contribution. Donovan could follow that exact trajectory, coming in without massive fanfare, but becoming an indispensable piece of the everyday lineup that fans wonder how they ever played without. Those are the moves that separate good front offices from great ones, identifying undervalued players who fit specific needs. The left-handed bat consideration is interesting because the Yankees are predominantly right-handed in their lineup construction, and while adding another lefty doesn't fix that imbalance, Donovan's production level is good enough that it doesn't matter which side of the plate he hits from. You don't pass on a .287 hitter with elite contact skills just because he bats left. The splits against right-handed and left-handed pitching would need examination, but generally Donovan has shown he can hit anyone, which is what you want from your everyday players. Platoon bats are useful, but guys who can play every day regardless of matchup are more valuable. The winter meetings are happening right now, which means things are moving quickly, and decisions need to be made before other teams swoop in and grab available players. If the Yankees are genuinely serious about Donovan, Cashman needs to be working the phones aggressively to get a deal done before someone like the Mets or Red Sox or another competitor enters the bidding and drives up the price. St. Louis isn't going to hold on to him forever if offers are coming in. They'll take the best package available and move forward. New York can't afford to get outbid on a player who fits their needs this perfectly just because they hesitated or tried negotiating the price down too much. My honest assessment is this move makes tremendous sense and should be a priority for the Yankees right now. The cost and prospects is reasonable given what you're getting back. 2 years of a proven big league contributor who addresses multiple weaknesses. The financial commitment is minimal, keeping future flexibility intact for other moves. The on-field impact would be immediate, giving Boone a high-contact, versatile player who can slot into multiple spots. And the cultural fit seems strong based on everything we know about Donovan's approach and mentality. This is exactly the type of under-the-radar, smart acquisition that championship teams make while everyone else is focused on the biggest names in free agency. If Cashman walks away from the winter meetings having added Donovan to this roster, Yankees fans should be thrilled, even if it's not the splashy move that generates headlines. Sometimes the best moves are the ones that quietly fix problems without fanfare, and this feels like one of those situations. Get it done, give Boone the versatility and contact skills he needs, and let's see this team take the next step toward getting back to the World Series and actually winning it this time.